So this is a video about why everyone is suddenly switching off their dopamine. And let me begin with this crazy scenario. There is this guy who is sitting at the slot machine and he's just losing everything. He lost his car, he lost his house, he lost his dignity, and he's down to his last stack of cash. Now, just as he's about to pull the lever, this lady walks past and she throws her drink all over him. The guy looks up, surprised, and the lady screams, "Do it, do it, do it, do it, do it." And so the guy takes a deep breath, pulls the lever, hits the jackpot, turns to the lady and says, "I didn't need your help. I was gonna do it anyway." Because in this scenario, the power wasn't coming from the lady. The power was coming from within. He was already wired to do it. He had the impulse control. He was going to do it regardless. And this is very similar to the way our brains are hardwired when it comes to dopamine. You see, the way our brain works is that we have this reward center that lights up every time we get some type of pleasure. And when something feels pleasurable, what does this reward center do? It releases dopamine, which is basically like the currency of the brain. And so when we win, we get a nice hit of dopamine. That hit tells us to want to play again. And when we do play again and we win, we get another nice hit of dopamine. And so this is how we become addicted to things, whether it be gambling or chocolate or Netflix or whatever it might be. Now, there are two types of people when it comes to dopamine. One person will chase after the highs, right? They will go on an adventure. They'll go skydiving. They'll go bungee jumping. They'll go to Vegas. And then there is the other type of person who gets dopamine from the lows. The type of person who finds pleasure from eating junk food, from being lazy, from doing nothing. So both types of people end up getting a nice hit of dopamine, but the first person goes out and chases thrills. The second person stays at home and comforts themselves. But either way, they're both chasing dopamine. But what happens when we only seek quick dopamine? What happens when we don't take the long path? We don't build up the suspense. We don't earn it. We don't work for it. We don't make it difficult for ourselves. Well, what ends up happening is that we create a dopamine tolerance. And when we create a dopamine tolerance, it means that we have to keep increasing the amount of time we spend, or the amount of money we spend, or the amount of effort we put in order to get the same hit of dopamine. In other words, we become less happy with the reward. For example, if you're someone who spends 30 minutes on social media and you feel really good afterwards, well, what happens next week? Well, next week you're going to spend 45 minutes because you're not feeling as much of a high. The week after that, maybe you're spending an hour and a half because you're not feeling as much of a high. And so this is the problem when it comes to quick dopamine. We always need more and more and more. And when we need more and more and more, we become more and more and more stressed in our lives. Because now you're spending hours upon hours scrolling through social media. You're wasting so much of your time doing something that doesn't really matter. We also start to fill our day with more and more mindless tasks. We're constantly checking our emails. We're constantly watching TV. We're constantly scrolling through social media. We're constantly looking for that next dopamine hit. And the problem is that when we look for that next dopamine hit, we never feel satisfied. We never feel fulfilled. There's always something better around the corner. There's always something more exciting. There's always something more entertaining. There's always something more enticing. And so what ends up happening is that we're always searching, we're always craving, but we never get enough. And so here is where Headspace comes in. Because what Headspace does is that it helps you find dopamine in the mundane, in the everyday, in the boring stuff. And when you find dopamine in the mundane, it means that you no longer have to chase it in the exciting, expensive, risky endeavors. Let me explain. Right now, as we speak, there are so many things going on in your life. There are things you want to do. There are things you have to do. There are things you don't want to do. There are things you don't have to do. And what's interesting is that if you were to list out all those things, most of them would probably be mundane. Most of them would probably be boring. Most of them would probably be everyday things. Yet these mundane, boring, everyday things are the things that are actually going to bring you the most dopamine in the long run. For example, if you want to be healthy, it's not the one cheat meal that's going to make you unhealthy. It's the 10,000 healthy meals that you have to eat over a lifetime that is going to make you healthy. If you want to be wealthy, it's not the one big investment that's going to make you wealthy. It's the thousands of small decisions that you have to make every single day, saving a few bucks here, investing a little bit there, keeping your expenses low, etc. If you want to be successful, It's not the one big opportunity that's going to make you successful. It's the thousands of small things that you have to do every single day, showing up to work, making the sales calls, hustling your business, etc. And so this is where Headspace comes in, because Headspace teaches you how to find the excitement in the boring, the passion in the mundane, the love in the everyday. When I first started meditating with Headspace, I noticed that I felt so much more energy. I felt so much more excited to take on the world. I felt so much more motivated to do my work. And so now when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is I meditate. It allows me to mentally transition from working mode to living mode. And this is exactly what Headspace is supposed to do. As the founder of Headspace likes to say, meditation isn't a way to become more spiritual. It's a way to become more human. And so by meditating, what you're redoing is that you're re-becoming more aware of the things that are going on inside of your mind. You're learning how to pay attention. And when you learn how to pay attention, you realize that a lot of these things you thought were so exciting, a lot of these things you thought were so important, a lot of these things you thought were so necessary to your happiness, they're not. And then you realize that a lot of these things you thought were so mundane, a lot of these things you thought were so boring, a lot of these things you thought were so unimportant, they're actually the most important. And so by the end of the course, what you're supposed to feel is that you feel more balanced. You feel more centered, you feel more grounded, you feel happier, you feel more focused, you feel more determined, you feel more motivated. You know, the funny thing is that most people try to do Headspace at night, but they shouldn't be doing it at night. They should be doing it in the morning, because when it's going to have the biggest impact on your day. You know, it's funny because as a society, we celebrate those who work super hard, hustle all day, never sleep, grind non-stop. But the reality is that if you want to be successful, if you want to be happy, if you want to be wealthy, if you want to be healthy, you need to have balance in your life. And when you have balance in your life, you know what you can do. You can get more done. You can feel better about yourself. You can enjoy your life more. You can accomplish more. You can be more productive. You can be more efficient. You can have more focus. And so this is why everyone is suddenly switching off their dopamine. We're all realizing that we don't need to chase after the exciting, we don't need to chase after the thrilling, we don't need to chase after the entertaining, because we can find all of that in the mundane, in the everyday, in the boring stuff. If you haven't tried Headspace yet, you gotta check it out. Over 60 million people are currently using Headspace to increase their happiness and decrease their stress. And if you use my link below, you're gonna get a free trial and 20% off your subscription. I'm telling you guys, this is life-changing. Meditation is life-changing. Headspace is one of the best apps for meditation. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much, Headspace, for sponsoring this video. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.